The museum slept behind its marble facade, grand columns silvered by the moon. Inside, security lasers hummed, cameras blinked, and a single set of footsteps echoed in long, hushed corridors. Emilio Ruiz, the night janitor, moved with practiced ease, dusting a glass case here, polishing a brass handrail there, until the ordinary jobs were done. Then he slipped into the restoration annex, the place staff called the boneyard, where cracked pedestals and jagged pottery waited for daylight professionals who never seemed to arrive. Emilio was 55, hair gone mostly to salt, knees sore from decades of scrubbing. He had no formal conservation training, only the curiosity of a child who once assembled model airplanes in a Mexico City barrio. During daylight hours, curators argued about provenance, donors debated gallop menus, and visitors craned their necks at masterpieces. But at night, the museum belonged to him, and broken things whispered for help. On a shelf lay a shattered clay tablet from the Syrian collection, its cuneiform letters split by centuries of earthquakes and, more recently, a careless intern's elbow. Emilio lifted the pieces, letting moonlight trace the writing. The security logs said non-essential artifacts like this could wait for the budget to improve. Emilio disagreed. He fetched his toolkit, soft brushes, pH-neutral adhesive, tweezers, magnifying loupe. With steady hands, he tested edges until they nested together like puzzle fragments. When the last shard clicked into place, something impossible happened. Filament-thin light seeped through the seams, webbing across the tablet. Emilio's breath fogged, a figure formed, a hologram, but unlike any projection he had seen in the museum's tech exhibitions, a scribe appeared, reed stylus poised, city walls burning behind him. He spoke in a language older than legend, yet Emilio felt the meaning inside his chest. Record the fall so the future may rise. The vision collapsed into sparks. Emilio staggered back, heart hammering. The tablet glowed for another second, then settled into inert clay. He glanced at the doorway where a motion sensor should have triggered alarms. Nothing, only silence and the smell of ancient dust. Emilio could have reported the event, but something told him the truth would end in confiscation and lockboxes. Instead, he cataloged the tablet in the museum's database as stabilized by E. Ruiz, await curator review, and returned to his cart. During the next weeks, he sought out other casualties: a Ming porcelain bowl, fractured into a spiderweb, a Yoruba bronze mask, bent and twisted, an Inuit soapstone figurine, chipped beyond recognition. Each night he restored one, and each time a story unspooled in light different voices, eras, and continents, but the same refrain: people break, people mend. The holograms faded only when the artifact was whole. Emilio began arranging the repaired pieces in a modest side gallery whose scheduled renovation remained unfunded. He positioned them beneath discrete projectors salvaged from a retired planetarium exhibit, wiring the power to a junction box he'd labeled, half as joke, half as prayer, Hall of Resilience. The projection effect, he discovered, returned when a visitor stood near. Motion activated an invisible filigree in the artifact, maybe nanoscopic crystals in the glaze, maybe something spiritual science hadn't named. He wasn't sure. He only knew that anyone who paused before the bowl saw, hovering above it, the image of a Chinese potter salvaging shards after an imperial kiln fire, mixing gold dust into lacquer and marking the cracks so beauty would include the wound. Before the bronze mask, a traveler trudged through drought, melted down family heirlooms, recast them into a guardian that carried old spirits while confronting new odds. Each vision lasted 30 seconds, then dimmed like a candle. Visitors discovered the gallery by accident, since no map listed it. A pair of teenagers chased each other through a staff door and returned wide-eyed. A doctoral candidate, escaping writer's block, emerged wiping tears. Words spread in whispers. Have you seen the place where broken things glow? Within a month, the foot traffic counter Emilio installed with a sensor above the lintel recorded more guests after hours than the neighboring Impressionist wing. On a misty November morning, Dr. Fiona Giles, chief curator of antiquities, entered the gallery with a clipboard, army at her heels. Emilio, vacuuming a rug, nearly swallowed his gum. She circled a recently restored Delos wine jug, whose handle once rested in 3 pieces. Above it shimmered the hologram of a sailor too poor to buy passage home, pledging the jug as collateral, surviving a shipwreck with empty hands but unbroken hope. When the projection winked out, Giles turned to her aides. Where are the projectors? I see no mountings. Who authorized this installation? One aide flipped frantically through work orders. Another adjusted his glasses. Ma'am, there's nothing in the records. Giles' gaze settled on Emilio. Mr. Ruiz, you have night shift, yes? Have you noticed anyone tampering? The safest answer would have been ignorance. Instead, he found himself saying, only me, Doctora. The pieces were calling. Silence fell. Emilio expected termination, maybe worse, but Giles surprised him. She stepped closer, examining the joins in the jug. Flawless alignment, she murmured. No visible adhesive. I use a reversible resin, Emilio said, still half whispering, and capillary action. But the rest? He shrugged. The stories reveal themselves. Giles tapped the jug with a gloved finger. We've courted donors for years with talk of interactive exhibits. You've conjured one out of scraps. She surveyed the room again, and for the first time, Emilio saw not suspicion, but calculation. Keep working, Monsieur Ruiz, officially. That night, Emilio received a badge upgrading him from custodial to adjunct conservator probationary. A joke, perhaps, but it opened doors. Literally, his card now granted access to the high-value storage vault. Inside, crates towered like sleeping elephants. Some bore dates from the 1920s, unopened since wartime evacuations. Emilio's fingers tingled. He chose a crate stamped Andes Expedition 1964, lifted the lid, and found the remains of a ceramic flute shaped like a condor. The accompanying note read, "Shattered in transport." He carried the shards to the annex. As he worked, he hummed old boleros his mother loved. When the condor's beak finally met its crown, a fresh vision burst forth. Mountaintops dissolved in sunrise, a boy carving a flute to honor a sister lost to smallpox, playing it at her cliffside grave, so the wind might carry her spirit upward. The boy kept playing through famine and civil strife. The song outlived storms. By dawn, the flute rested in the gallery. Emilio placed it at child's eye height. That weekend, a family of refugees stood before it. The hologram bloomed. Parents exchanged knowing glances. The youngest girl lifted an imaginary flute to her lips and played along with the silent apparition. Media coverage was inevitable. A lifestyle blogger posted grainy cell phone footage titled Museum Magic Zone, and views exploded. Local news interviewed Giles, who credited a team of dedicated conservators led by Emilio Ruiz. Emilio stood awkwardly under studio lights while anchors asked how the projections worked. He offered the only truth he possessed. Objects remember what humans forget. When we mend them, they lend their memory to us. Behind the applause lurked complications. The museum's board greenlit a blockbuster exhibition, Resilience Through Ruin. Sponsors donated funds. Ticket pre-sales broke records. But the centerpiece artifact, a 9th century Persian storm mirror acquired from a private collection, shattered during shipment. Each mercury-tinted shard serrated like a shark tooth. Opening night was 43 days away. Insurance covered monetary loss, not reputational ruin. All eyes turned to Emilio. He examined the fragments under ultraviolet light. The reflective layer was unstable. One wrong solvent would turn silver nitrate to dust. Still, he agreed to attempt restoration on 2 conditions. First, a team of apprentices he could train. Second, that the artifact remain accessible to public school groups at reduced cost. The board, desperate, signed. Emilio chose 4 apprentices, a chemistry major on work study, a maintenance electrician handy with micro-soldering, a docent who sketched patterns in her notebook for fun, and Dr. Giles herself, who admitted she hadn't steadied her own hands over a shard in 10 years. They met nightly, a clandestine orchestra of focus and flux. Emilio taught them to map cracks with pencil graphite so faint it vanished after cleanup, to warm adhesive bottles inside shirt pockets so viscosity matched ancient capillaries, and to breathe evenly lest condensation bloom on polished surfaces. Sometimes he caught Giles staring at him as if recalculating decades of hierarchy. Days blurred into December. Outside, snow pressed against windows. Inside, the mirror slowly regained its wholeness, a mosaic of lightning veins. Near completion, Emilio hesitated. The holograms had always appeared when that final juncture sealed. This time, many hands would share the moment. He invited his team to place the last triangular facet together. They counted uno, dos, tres, and pressed. Light erupted, brighter than any before. The annex walls dissolved into desert dunes under roiling clouds. A caravan of scholars marched, safeguarding scrolls, while thunderheads cracked open the sky. One by one, storm gusts tore the scrolls, scattered ink, extinguished torches. Only the mirror remained, caught between lightning forks, reflecting bolts back into heaven. The scholars knelt, understanding that knowledge sometimes survives not through fortress walls, but through reflective resilience, bouncing catastrophe into revelation. When the illusion faded, 5 people stood hand in hand, cheeks wet, speechless. The mirror gleamed on the table, unmarred. Opening night came in a whirl of tuxedos, flashbulbs, and hors d'oeuvres shaped like amphorae. Emilio traded his custodial uniform for a borrowed suit 2 sizes too large. As crowds entered the gallery, sensors registered motion, and each artifact told its story in luminous choruses. In front of the storm mirror, visitors gasped at lightning dancing across convex glass. Children reached out, adults caught themselves doing the same. One guest, a veteran in a wheelchair, broke protocol, rolling close enough for guards to shift nervously. The mirror ignited. Instead of the caravan scene, a new vision surfaced. The veteran himself in a hospital corridor, relearning to move mechanical knees, refusing to surrender the clarinet he once played. The projection lasted only a heartbeat, but the man exhaled like a diver breaching water. Word spread that the mirror tailored its hologram to each viewer's private struggle, showing not recorded history, but personal resilience histories hiding in everyday souls. Scientists scheduled to analyze the gadgetry found no embedded chips, no holographic projectors, no power source. Perhaps, Giles told the press, our collective stories conduct energy through objects, deepened by fracture. A week into the exhibition, Emilio returned to night shift by choice. Fame suffocated him. The mop offered simple refuge. As he pushed his cart past the gallery, he paused. Visitors lingered, even after last call, reluctant to exit the glow. Among them, a teenage boy traced the gold-laced crack of the porcelain bowl. His mother hovered with worry lines. The bowl activated, revealing the potter saving shards from fire. When it ended, the boy whispered, "It means I'm not useless if I'm hurt, right?" His mother nodded, tears bright. The guards let them stay a minute longer before escorting them out. Emilio resumed mopping, heart swollen. He remembered how, years ago, a construction accident stole his older brother's livelihood and laughter. How Emilio left school to scrub floors, wiring money home, paycheck by paycheck. No hologram recorded that sacrifice. Maybe none needed to. The museum now was alive, with thousands of such unsung stories. Past midnight, Giles appeared at the gallery entrance, high heels dangling from her fingers. "Can't sleep," she admitted. She joined him on a bench facing the storm mirror. "What do you think it is?" she asked. "A lens," Emilio said. "Broken things become lenses. They don't hide the cracks, they let light through them." She was silent. Then, "We've put your name forward for the International Conservation Medal." He chuckled. "I'm just the janitor." "You were," she corrected. "Now you're the keeper of the stories." He considered that. Moonlight streamed through skylights, refracting in the mirror's surface until the room shimmered. For a fleeting second, Emilio glimpsed his reflection, multiply fractured and reassembled. Older, yes, with lined eyes and calloused palms, yet radiant, through seams like a stained glass saint crafted from everyday glass. The moment passed, the mirror stilled. "Another night's work," Emilio said, standing to gather his bucket. "Another day's hope," Giles replied. They parted in the hallway. Emilio returned his tools, locked the annex, and punched out. Outside, snow had stopped. The city sparkled with salt and resilience. As he walked to the bus stop, he imagined distant artifacts, splintered, boxed, forgotten, vibrating faintly, waiting for hands that believed breakage was only an invitation to shine. Someone would answer. Perhaps a janitor in another city, humming old songs. Perhaps a child gluing a toy back together. The stories were everywhere, eager to project themselves through the first soul brave enough to mend. Emilio smiled into the cold dawn.